Welcome to XIO Voice. Continuing from the previous episode 160. The young man's calm voice was just like flowing water as it crossed the large hall. This caused everyone to be stunned. Such a tone was really filled with extraordinary arrogance. The black-clothed elders who were called Zhao He and Qin Mo were startled when they heard his voice. Their expressions immediately turned sinister. Both pairs of eyes looked at the young man, who was slowly walking in, like fierce wolves. A moment later, they ferociously smiled. A mere two-star Dozong dares to act so presumptuously in front of the two of us old fellows. There is still 40 seconds. The young man appeared to have not heard the ferocious laughs of the two of them. A somewhat lazy voice was emitted from his mouth. "Kill him!" Zhao Hei's expression was dark and chilly as he slowly commanded. A fierce expression instantly flew into the eyes of the many people from the Black Fire sect the moment they heard this order. Powerful Do Qi surged out of their bodies. After which, they unleashed their Do Qi together without any prior agreement and rushed toward the young man, who was slowly walking over. A jade-green flame surged out of Xiao Yan's body and transformed into a fire barrier. Those fierce attacks automatically disappeared when they made contact with the fire barrier. They did not even cause Xiao Yan's footsteps to pause for even a moment. Zhao He and Qin Mo were initially startled when they saw the jade-green flame that surged out of Xiao Yan's body. They suddenly cried out involuntarily, "Heavenly flame?" A wild joy and greed suddenly rose into the eyes of the two of them after their involuntary cry. The Black Fire sect was renowned for its fire affinity. They naturally had a great understanding of heavenly flames, which were the strongest of all flames. "Brat, you possess such a unique item. However, since you have delivered yourself to us, the two of us shall kindly accept." Zhao He smiled. He exchanged expressions with Qin Mo. After which, their feet abruptly stomped on the ground. The two of them attacked at the same time and rushed toward Xiao Yan. "Oh, time's up." Xiao Yan let out a soft sigh and shook his head slightly when the two of them attacked. The space around Xiao Yan was slowly distorted while his soft sigh slowly sounded. Immediately, an old figure strangely appeared. His sleeves were randomly swung toward the two who had shot over explosively. Immediately, the empty space appeared to be violently blended by an invisible hand, revealing numerous spatial folds. A majestic and frightening strength cut through the space quietly like floodwater as the sleeves was swung. After which, it gently collided with Zhao Hei's and Qin Mo's chest without forming even the slightest ripple. Grug. The bodies of Zhao He and Qin Mo suddenly stilled as the wind blew over. The ferociousness on their faces instantly transformed into shock. Before this shock could completely disappear, two bright red mouthfuls of fresh blood along with some shattered inner organs were spat out from their mouths. Bang! After the fresh blood was spat out, the two figures flew back like kites with broken strings. They subsequently smashed against the ground, rolled miserably for over 10 times before violently colliding into a wall. The vague yet clear sound of bones being crushed rang out. The entire hall was silent. All the gazes were looking at the old figure beside Xiao Yan with dull expressions. With just a random wave, two experts at the peak of the 6-star Dozong class were defeated so miserably without any ability to defend themselves? Dozun? Yi Zhang was stunned as he looked at this old figure. Although not the least bit of aura seeped out of his body, he could still sense a dangerous feeling. He had experienced such a dangerous feeling before. However, all of those who gave him such a feeling were powerful existences who had stepped into the Dozun class. Since when did my Yi clan have an interaction with such an expert? This thought flashed through Yi Zhang's heart. Ever since their Yi clan began to decline, they hardly possessed any ability to interest an elite Dozun. Otherwise, this Black Fire sect would not dare to find trouble with them. While Yi Zhang was feeling doubt in his heart, his eyes suddenly landed on Xin Lan outside of the large hall. He was immediately startled. He seemed to have recalled something. His eyes were suddenly turned to Xiao Yan. Although his appearance had changed a little, Yi Zhang could still see a little familiarity in his outline. He is Xiao Yan from back then? This thought flashed through his heart. Even Yi Zhang could not help but inhale a breath of cool air. The last time they met, this person only had a powerful puppet beside him. Yet why was there another mysterious elite Dozun beside him after only a short 1-month period or so? This person definitely possesses a great background. Otherwise, how is it possible for him to get an elite Dozun to follow beside him? My Yi clan was blind in old age. We nearly offended this great being. Xiao Yan was naturally unaware of the churning thoughts within Yi Zong's heart. He glanced at the fresh blood on the corner of the wall as well as the shocked Zhao He and Qin Mo. After which, he involuntarily let out a cold laugh. The strike from Tian Huo Zun Jie earlier had caused these two a serious injury at the very least. Even if they managed to recover, it was likely that a sequelae would be left behind. This senior, the two of us are elders from the Black Fire sect. We are blind to have offended you today. Please forgive the both of us. Zhao He and Qin Mo climbed up from the ground in a miserable manner. Their hearts were so shaken that they did not possess the slightest anger. Being those involved, they had a clear understanding of how terrifying the attack earlier was. By being able to defeat the two of them so easily, the other party was definitely an expert of the Dozun class. Such an existence was not someone their Black Fire sect could offend. Damn it, how is it possible for the Yi clan to be acquainted with an elite Dozun? We have miscalculated this time around. Once we return, we must definitely inform sect leader about this. It is best that we stop having any ill thoughts toward the Yi clan in the future. A camel that dies from being too skinny is still bigger than a horse. The mouths of the two of them were filled with bitterness. They forcefully endured the waves of intense pain that was emitted from their bodies as they rubbed off the fresh blood on their faces. However, they no longer possessed even the least bit of prestige that they had displayed earlier. In front of an elite Dozun, their lives were just like ants that were not even worth mentioning. This point was something that the both of them were clearly aware of. Get lost. If you return again, I will head to your Black Fire sect and accompany all of you with a little chat. Xiao Yan indifferently glanced at these two people, who were scared witless, as he coldly spoke. Zhao He and Qin Mo coldly shivered when they heard his words. However, they did not dare say anything else. Both of them supported each other and fled to the door. Take your stuff with you. Xiao Yan's cold cry quickly followed after these two had just exited through the door. The both of them hurriedly turned around and submissively returned all the coffins in the hall to their storage rings. Only then did they lead their men and miserably fled without daring to utter a word. All of this occurred in front of the stunned gazes of the members of the Yi clan. The members of the Yi clan in the large hall only recovered a while after watching the people from the Black Fire sect flee in a miserable manner. Some respect surged in their eyes when they looked at Xiao Yan and Tian Huo Zun Jie beside him. Grandfather, are you all right? Xin Lan's figure hurriedly ran into the hall and inquired with a worrying voice while facing Yi Zhong. Yi Zhong shook his head. His eyes immediately landed on Xiao Yan as he softly sighed. He bowed his body and cupped his hands together in a grave manner. Mr. Xiao Yan, thank you for rescuing us. Please do not take the disrespect of the Yi clan back then to heart. Xiao Yan? Some of the members of the Yi clan were startled when they heard Yi Zong's words, especially the few Yi clan's elders who had exchanged blows with Xiao Yan back then. Their eyes were astonished when they looked at Xiao Yan. An ashamed expression soon followed. Xiao Yan randomly waved his hand. He was too lazy to say any courteous words. Instead, he stated his intent. This time around, I have come to the Yi clan with the intention of borrowing the Sunfire ancient altar. May I know if Elder Yi Zhong will lend it to me? Yi Zong's eyes glanced at Xin Lan beside him after hearing this. She hurriedly nodded to him. He could only bitterly laugh as he said, Mr. Xiao Yan has rescued my Yi clan today. Although the Sunfire ancient altar cannot be loaned to an outsider based on the rules of the clan, the Yi clan has already fallen to such a state. It is likely seeking its own death if it still insists on its old ways. Xiao Yan only gently nodded his head after hearing that Yi Zhong did not say anything to evade the issue. Yi Zhong instructed the clan members to clean up the large hall before personally leading Xiao Yan's group to the deeper parts of the Yi clan manor. Around 10 minutes later, an extremely deserted, rocky open ground appeared in front of them. In the middle of the open ground was a somewhat ancient altar. The enormous rocks that were used to build the altar were filled with the traces of time. Clearly, this altar had existed for a long time. Xiao Yan approached the altar and discovered that it was exceptionally bright. Moreover, the closer he got to the altar, the hotter and purer the surrounding energy was. Numerous substance-like light rays scattered down from the sky. After being reflected by the smooth rock walls, they ended up gathering on a dark black stone tablet. There is a hole that connects deep underground under the stone tablet. Some core heart fire seedlings will escape when the stone tablet is shifted away. It will subsequently light up the sunlight gathered here and form the sun flame, of course. This was the case in the past. Yi Zhang softly sighed and bitterly laughed as he stared at the ancient altar. What happened? Xiao Yan slightly frowned when he heard his words. Since a couple of years ago, seldom do core heart fire seedlings come out of the hole. It is not possible to excite the sunlight and form the sun flame. Yi Zhang sighed. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. He did not need to rely on whatever sun flame for his purpose. All he wanted to do was borrow the pure, natural energy of this place to suppress the little fairy doctor's woeful poison body. Little fairy doctor, enter the altar. Xiao Yan turned his head and instructed to the little fairy doctor. The little fairy doctor nodded when she heard this. Her toes pressed on the ground and her body gently landed inside the altar. The dense heat and light energy around caused her eyebrows to turn vertical as she felt some discomfort. Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment after seeing the little fairy doctor enter the altar. He once again summoned the earth demon puppet. After which, he finally relaxed and walked into the altar. Old Mr. Yao, please stand guard for us. Do not allow anyone to interrupt. Tian Huo Zun Jie smiled as he nodded. His body moved and appeared on a huge tree by the edge of the open ground. Finally, he sat on it. You can rest assured that unless an elite Do Zun comes to this place personally, no one will be able to interrupt you. Yi Zhang also wisely withdrew far away when he saw this. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. His eyes swept around him. There were many rock walls around this altar. If one did not approach it, it would be difficult to see what was happening within from the outside. Therefore, it could be considered a hidden place. Xiao Yan withdrew his gaze. He looked at the little fairy doctor in front of him, who appeared a little uneasy. With a soft laugh, he said, in that case, I should also begin.